A struggling rancher finds a wounded stranger, and his life changes forever. The desert sun burned low over the horizon of Red Mesa, casting long, jagged shadows across the rocky plains. Cole Harper, a weathered rancher in his late 30s, rode slowly along a dry trail, his horse's hooves kicking up dust with each careful step. The air was hot and thick, carrying the scent of sand and scorched grass. Cole's ranch had seen better days. The drought had been relentless, and his herd had thinned to nearly half its size. Supplies were running low, and bills he could never pay sat stacked in his small cabin. Still, he refused to give up. The land was all he had, and he worked harder than anyone to keep it alive. Cole stopped at the edge of a canyon and shaded his eyes with one hand. The twin suns of Red Mesa were beginning to sink, turning the sky into streaks of red and orange. Something caught his attention, movement in a narrow crevice far below. His brow furrowed. It wasn't a coyote or one of the desert creatures he was used to. The shape looked human, but it moved strangely, limping and staggering. He urged his horse forward carefully, descending the rocky slope with the caution of a man who knew the desert could be unforgiving. As he drew closer, he saw the figure clearly. It was a man, or at least he looked human, lying against the rocks. His clothes were torn and there were dark stains spreading across his chest. His breathing was shallow and his hand twitched as if he were in pain. Cole's instincts battled with caution. Who was this stranger? And why was he here alone on a remote and harsh desert planet? The sensible part of Cole wanted to leave him to avoid trouble, but the part that had grown up on this land, learning that every life was valuable, told him otherwise. He dismounted and approached slowly, keeping his hand near the lasso at his belt. "Hey," Cole called gently. "You all right?" The stranger's head lifted slightly, revealing pale skin marked with faint, silvery lines that shimmered under the setting suns. His eyes flickered open, glowing faintly before dimming again. "Please, help me," he whispered, voice weak and strained. Cole's heart tightened. He glanced around. The canyon was silent except for the soft hiss of the wind. No one else was in sight. He helped the stranger to his feet, supporting most of the weight. The stranger groaned but leaned on him, allowing Cole to guide him back toward the horse. "Come on, you'll be safe at my place," Cole said. "I can patch you up." The stranger nodded faintly, and Cole helped him onto the horse, keeping his arms steady. The ride back to the ranch was tense. Every rustle of wind against the rocks, every distant screech from the desert creatures, made Cole's hand twitch toward his revolver. Yet the stranger said nothing, only pressing a hand to his chest as if the pain burned him with every heartbeat. When they reached the small ranch, Cole led the horse into the corral and helped the stranger down. He set him gently on the porch, motioning for him to stay put while he fetched water and clean rags. Cole's mind raced with questions. Who was this man? Why was he here? And what were those strange markings on his skin? Cole cleaned the cuts and bound the stranger's wounds with practiced care. He noticed the faint hum of energy beneath the stranger's skin, almost like a pulse of light under the surface. It made Cole uneasy, but he didn't voice it. The man, Ryan, as he eventually whispered his name, stared at Cole with an intensity that made him feel both nervous and responsible. "You're hurt bad," Cole said. "I don't know what happened, but I can help. You're safe here." Ryan's lips trembled, and he gave a weak nod. "Thank you," he whispered. "They're after me. They can't find me." Cole frowned, trying to understand. "Who's after you?" Ryan shook his head slightly, groaning in pain. "Not now, later." Cole understood enough. There were forces hunting this man, and if they found him on Red Mesa, trouble would come for the ranch too. He couldn't turn him away. The desert was dangerous, but Cole's stubbornness, the same stubbornness that kept him fighting to save his ranch, would not let him leave someone to die. Cole prepared a simple meal of dried meat and water. The stranger ate slowly, wincing with each movement. Cole kept talking, trying to keep him awake and alert, asking about the planet, about his journey, about why he ended up alone. Ryan answered in fragments, his words barely understandable, but they gave Cole a sense of urgency. There were enemies, far more advanced than anything Cole had faced, and something the stranger carried was dangerous to them. Night fell, and the twin moons rose high, bathing the ranch in silver light. Cole sat beside Ryan, his hands busy repairing the fence in the small corral while keeping one eye on the stranger. Every creak of the ranch, every whisper of the wind made him alert. This was no ordinary night. Ryan, finally resting his head on a small pillow, spoke again. "They will come," he whispered. "You can't trust anyone." Cole didn't flinch. I trust you, he said simply, and right now you're with me, that's what matters, we'll deal with the rest when the time comes. The stranger's eyes softened slightly. There was something almost human about his expression, despite the faint glow of the lines beneath his skin. You, kind, rare, he murmured before falling silent, drifting into a troubled sleep. Cole watched him, the weight of responsibility pressing on his shoulders. The ranch had always been lonely and his life simple, focused on survival and the land. Now, a stranger with unknown powers, hunted by unknown enemies, was in his care. Cole knew instinctively that nothing would ever be the same again. Hours passed. The desert night was quiet, save for the occasional call of a nocturnal creature. Cole stepped outside to look at the horizon. The stars were bright, and the moons reflected off the distant rocks. The air smelled of sand and metal, the faint hint of something unusual lingering from the stranger's arrival. A sudden noise made Cole stiffen. A small shimmer in the distance, a light flicker between the rocks. He grabbed his rifle and moved cautiously toward the edge of the porch. Nothing, probably an animal. Still, Cole's gut told him that trouble was closer than he wanted to admit. Returning to the stranger, Cole prepared the small bedroll beside the porch, just in case. He sat down and watched as Ryan shifted in his sleep, mumbling unintelligible words. There was a sadness in the man, a burden that weighed more than the wounds on his body. Cole wondered what stories he carried, what dangers followed him, and how this stranger would change the course of his life. By dawn, the desert was bathed in the soft gold of the suns rising over the horizon. Cole rose and prepared for the day, keeping a careful watch. He knew this day would not be ordinary. The stranger was awake now, sitting quietly on the porch, his gaze distant, almost haunted. I need to get stronger, Ryan said softly. They won't stop, not until... Cole nodded, understanding. Then you rest here as long as you need. We'll figure it out together. There was a quiet understanding between them. Cole, a struggling rancher, had found more than just a wounded stranger in the desert. He had found a responsibility, a challenge, and perhaps the start of something greater than the life he had ever imagined. The winds shifted across Red Mesa, carrying with them the faint hum of unknown engines from distant lands. Cole's hand rested on his rifle. For the first time in a long time, he felt the pulse of life beyond his ranch, a stirring of adventure, danger, and change. The world had shifted, and Cole Harper knew that nothing would ever be the same again. He looked at Ryan and said quietly, "Whatever comes, we'll face it together." Ryan's eyes met his, faint lines of light glowing, almost like a promise. The desert was silent once more, but the promise of change hung heavy in the air. The ranch, the canyon, and the lonely trails of Red Mesa would never again be quiet. Cole Harper's life, simple and hard as it had been, was about to be transformed forever. The morning sun burned brighter over Red Mesa, spilling gold across the jagged rocks and the dry desert plains. Cole Harper had been up before dawn, checking the fences and tending to the thinning herd. He could feel the tension in the air. Something was coming, though he didn't know what. Ryan, the stranger he had rescued, sat quietly on the porch, the faint glow of the lines beneath his skin pulsing slowly, almost like a heartbeat. Cole approached him with a cup of water. "You need to eat something," he said. "You're still weak." "I can't have you passing out again." Ryan took the cup, his fingers brushing Cole's hand. "Thank you," he whispered, voice hoarse but steadier than yesterday. "I can't stay long, they coming," Cole frowned. "Who's coming?" "They want it," Ryan said, his eyes scanning the horizon. "The device, they can't let it go." Cole's brow furrowed. He didn't understand everything Ryan said, but he understood danger. Whoever was hunting this man was advanced, fast, and relentless. And if they found him here, Cole and the ranch would be at risk. Cole finished his chores quickly, keeping an eye on Ryan. The stranger tried to move around, testing his strength, but he stumbled, grimacing. Cole helped him, supporting his weight as he walked toward the corral. "You need rest," Cole said firmly. "You can't fight anything if you collapse." Ryan shook his head. "No, can't wait, they close," Cole sighed. "Then we prepare, I'll help you as much as I can." By midday, the first sign of trouble appeared. A faint hum, almost like a wind that didn't belong to the desert, reached Cole's ears. He looked up and squinted against the sun. In the distance, a small, sleek ship hovered, its metallic surface reflecting the twin suns. Dust rose as it descended, sending a small tremor through the ground. "They're here," Ryan said quietly, his voice tense. "We move." Cole grabbed his rifle, feeling the weight of it in his hands. He had faced rattlesnakes, wild creatures, and desperate men before, but this was different. The ship was not like anything he had seen. Its engines hummed softly, and shadows shifted beneath it, as if the desert itself feared it. "Come on," Cole said. "We'll use the canyon." "I know the land better than they do." Ryan followed, limping slightly but moving with determination. Cole led him through the rocky paths, narrow enough to block the larger vehicle from following. As they moved, Ryan whispered instructions, pointing out subtle dangers and teaching Cole how to recognize traps and tracking devices. His knowledge was strange and advanced, and Cole realized that Ryan was not an ordinary man. The first drones came shortly after, small and fast, hovering just above the sand. Cole could hear their engines buzzing, scanning for heat and movement. He ducked behind a rock and whispered to Ryan, "They're looking for you. I don't know what you've done, but we'll stop them." Ryan nodded, placing a hand on the rock beside him. A faint pulse of energy shivered through the stone, and one drone faltered, its circuits sizzling before it fell into the sand. Cole blinked. "What did you just do?" Ryan looked tired. "Help a little, too weak more yet." Cole swallowed his surprise. He didn't understand the stranger's abilities fully, but he could see their value. Together, they moved quickly through the narrow canyons, using Cole's knowledge of the terrain and Ryan's subtle powers to evade the drones. Each turn of the canyon brought them closer to safety, but Cole knew the larger ship was still above, searching, waiting. As they moved, Cole asked cautiously, "What is this device you're carrying? Why do they want it?" Ryan's eyes darkened. "Can control weather. Rain stop, storms powerful, wrong hands, ruin worlds." Cole's stomach tightened. He had struggled to keep his crops alive to save his herd during the drought. And now he realized that this stranger carried something that could either save his land or destroy countless others. The sun dipped lower, painting the rocks in deep red and orange. The desert air was heavy with dust and tension. Cole and Ryan took refuge in a small alcove hidden from view to rest. Cole offered Ryan some dried meat, and the stranger ate slowly, wincing with every bite. "You must be hungry," Cole said softly. "You've been running for a long time." Ryan nodded. "Hungry, tired, but must move. They never stop." Cole studied him. There was a burden in Ryan's eyes, something heavier than his wounds. He understood enough to see the truth. This man had been running for a long time, carrying a secret that could change everything. And Cole, by saving him, had now become part of that secret. As they rested, Cole prepared simple traps along the path they planned to take. He set small pitfalls and loose rocks, planning to use the desert itself as a defense. The sun sank behind the canyon walls and shadows lengthened. The first stars appeared, faint against the deepening sky. A sudden movement in the distance made Cole tense. A scout drone hovered, its small light sweeping across the canyon. He signaled to Ryan, who muttered a soft sound and touched the ground. A faint pulse of energy rippled through the sand, disrupting the drone's sensors. It wobbled and fell, harmlessly crashing into a rock. Cole let out a low whistle. "You're more than just wounded, aren't you?" Ryan gave a faint smile. "Not normal. You survived. Trust. Help." Cole nodded. Trust was something he had learned on this land, between men, between neighbors, and sometimes between strangers. He decided then that he would protect Ryan, no matter what it took. Night fully fell, and the desert became quiet except for the occasional rustle of creatures moving under the moon's glow. They moved carefully, staying low and keeping to the shadows. Cole guided Ryan along hidden paths, using his knowledge of the canyon to avoid the main routes where the enemies could find them. Suddenly, a beam of light cut across the rocks. The corporate scouts had found their trail. Ryan hissed, and his hands glowed faintly. Cole took cover, watching in awe as Ryan used the small energy pulses to disable the scouts' scanners. The path was clear for a few minutes, just enough to escape further into the canyon. As they ran, Cole felt adrenaline surging. He had faced storms, droughts, and hostile neighbors, but nothing like this. The desert, once a familiar friend, now felt alive with danger and possibility. He realized that the quiet life he had known was gone. With Ryan by his side, every choice, every step could mean life or death. They reached a narrow ledge overlooking a hidden valley. Cole paused, letting Ryan catch his breath. "We'll rest here for a little while," Cole said. "It's safe for now." Ryan nodded, though the faint glow beneath his skin pulsed faster, showing exhaustion. "Safe for now, but must move soon." Cole looked out across the valley. Strange plants glowed in the darkness. Alien wildlife moved silently between the rocks. and the wind carried distant sounds he couldn't identify. It was beautiful but dangerous. He realized that Red Mesa held more secrets than he had ever imagined. For a moment, Cole allowed himself to feel hope. With Ryan's knowledge and his own skills, perhaps they could survive. Perhaps they could fight back. The thought gave him strength. He would protect this stranger. He would protect his land. And together, they might find a way to stay alive in a world that was bigger and stranger than anything he had known. The night deepened, and the stars above reflected in the faint streams of light that ran across the valley. Cole sat beside Ryan, quietly preparing for the days ahead. He knew the danger was far from over. The enemies were relentless, and the journey would be long. But for the first time in months, Cole felt alive, connected to something greater than survival. The desert held secrets, and Ryan held knowledge. And together they were about to face whatever the twin sons of Red Mesa would throw at them. Cole Harper, the struggling rancher, had stepped into a story far larger than himself. And as the faint glow beneath Ryan's skin pulsed like a heartbeat, Cole knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The next morning, the twin suns rose over Red Mesa, casting long golden streaks across the rocky plains. Cole Harper woke early, stretching and checking his horse and supplies. The night had been quiet, almost too quiet. He glanced at Ryan, who was sitting on the ledge, his gaze distant, faint lines of light pulsing beneath his skin. The stranger had slept better than before, but he was still weak. Cole knelt beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "We should move soon. If they catch up, there's no hiding in this valley forever." Ryan nodded slowly, grimacing as he stood. "I ready must reach safe place." Cole studied him for a moment. The road ahead would not be easy. They had to cross the alien plains, a land both beautiful and deadly. Strange flora grew in clusters, glowing softly in shades of green and blue. Floating rocks drifted lazily above the ground, and the wildlife was unfamiliar, some resembling beasts, others like machines. Cole had never seen anything like it, yet the land offered cover if they could navigate it carefully. They started down the narrow path that led to the plains, moving cautiously. Cole guided Ryan through the safest routes, avoiding open spaces where drones or enemy scouts might spot them. The stranger's glowing lines flickered as he concentrated, subtly affecting the ground beneath them to dampen their tracks. Cole was amazed, realizing Ryan's abilities were even stronger than he had imagined. "Be careful," Ryan warned. "They everywhere fast." Cole nodded, gripping his rifle tighter. He had faced dangers on Red Mesa before, storms, predators, and desperate men. But this was different. This was a force that could track them across miles, using machines and powers beyond his understanding. As they moved, they came across a small settlement nestled between two jagged cliffs. Smoke rose from chimneys, and humans and alien settlers went about their work. Cole slowed, careful not to draw attention. "We can rest there for a while," he said quietly. "Maybe get some supplies." Ryan shook his head. "No, too visible they watch." Cole considered this. The settlement was small, but outsiders would be noticed. "We'll take the long path around," he decided. "Better safe than dead." They skirted the settlement, moving along hidden trails. The plains stretched endlessly before them, a mix of glowing plants and shifting rocks. The air shimmered with heat, and distant creatures howled, their calls echoing across the alien landscape. Cole led the way, using his knowledge of terrain and survival skills to keep them hidden. Hours passed. Cole felt the fatigue in his muscles, but he refused to slow. Ryan stumbled occasionally, and Cole caught him before he fell. "You need to rest," Cole said, but Ryan shook his head. "No, can't stop, must reach safe colony." Cole realized the stakes were higher than he had thought. Whatever Ryan carried, it was worth more than any treasure or herd. And the forces pursuing him would not hesitate to destroy anything in their path. Suddenly, a low hum grew in the distance. Cole froze. "They're close," he whispered. Ryan's eyes glowed faintly. "Yes, faster, stronger, must move." Cole scanned the horizon. A sleek ship appeared, hovering above the plains. Its engines hummed with precision, and smaller drones darted around like hunting hawks. Cole gritted his teeth. "We'll have to fight our way through," he muttered. They ducked behind a cluster of glowing plants, using them as cover. Cole set small traps along the path, using rocks and ropes, while Ryan focused energy pulses to disable approaching drones. One drone screeched and fell, sparks flying as it hit the ground. Cole's heart raced. He had never imagined fighting machines like this, but he was learning quickly. As they pressed on, the plains grew more dangerous. Floating rocks shifted unpredictably, creating gaps they had to jump. Strange plants released bursts of pollen that could stun if touched. Cole guided Ryan carefully, holding his hand through each jump and step. They moved with urgency, knowing the pursuing forces were relentless. By late afternoon, they reached a narrow canyon that led to a hidden valley. Cole paused, catching his breath. "We're almost there," he said. "This valley will give us a chance to rest." Ryan leaned heavily against a rock. "Safe for now, but must keep moving." Cole nodded. He understood. The enemy would not give up. They needed a plan. He studied the canyon walls and valley below, noticing natural traps and choke points. "We can use the terrain," he said. "Set up defenses, slow them down if they follow." They began descending into the valley. Cole showed Ryan how to use the natural formations to hide, to create distractions, and to avoid detection. Ryan's abilities helped them manipulate the ground slightly, leaving minimal traces. Together, they moved like a single unit, blending Cole's practical knowledge with Ryan's extraordinary abilities. As night fell, the valley glowed faintly with the light of strange plants. Cole and Ryan found a small cave to rest in, hidden from view. Cole set traps at the entrance, while Ryan focused energy pulses to create a subtle barrier. They were safe for the moment, but both knew the danger was not gone. Sitting beside the fire, Cole spoke quietly. "Tell me more about this device you're carrying. Why is it so important?" Ryan's eyes dimmed slightly, as if weighing how much to reveal. "Can control weather, rain, storms, powerful, wrong hands, ruin worlds." Cole's stomach tightened. He had fought to keep his ranch alive through droughts, struggling to protect the land. Now he understood the magnitude of what Ryan carried. This device could save or destroy entire colonies. Cole leaned back, staring at the glowing plants around the cave. He had never thought his life would lead to this. He was a simple rancher, used to cattle, crops, and the harsh desert. And now he was protecting a man hunted by forces he could barely comprehend. Ryan rested his head against the rock. "You help me. I survive, you brave." Cole smiled faintly. "I've survived worse than machines and storms. I'll make sure you get through this." The night passed slowly. The distant hum of engines reached them occasionally, but the valley's natural formations kept them hidden. Cole remained vigilant, checking traps and listening to the wind. The desert was alive with unseen dangers, but he was determined to protect the stranger beside him. By dawn, Cole and Ryan were ready to move again. They had rested enough to continue their journey. Cole led the way through the valley, showing Ryan paths that would keep them hidden and reduce the risk of drones spotting them. They were careful, methodical, and alert, knowing that any mistake could be fatal. As they emerged from the valley, a sudden sight stopped them in their tracks. On the horizon, a massive ship hovered, its shadow stretching across the plains. Smaller drones flitted around it, scanning the ground below. Cole gritted his teeth. The enemy had found them again. Ryan placed a hand on Cole's shoulder. "Now fight, must survive." Cole nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility. He had never imagined himself as a hero, but here he was, standing between the stranger and a force capable of destruction. He tightened his grip on his rifle and readied his mind for the challenge ahead. They sprinted across the plains, moving from cover to cover. Cole used the terrain to his advantage, hiding behind glowing plants and rocks, while Ryan used his energy pulses to disable approaching drones. Sparks flew, dust rose, and the air was thick with tension. Hours passed in a blur of motion and strategy. Cole realized that survival depended on trust, quick thinking, and the unique partnership he had formed with Ryan. Alone, either of them would have been overwhelmed. Together, they had a chance. By evening, they reached another narrow canyon, one that led to a hidden settlement of friendly colonists. Cole knew they would be safe here, at least temporarily. The journey had been long, exhausting, and dangerous, but he felt a small sense of hope. Ryan looked at Cole, gratitude and determination shining in his eyes. "Thank you, Cole, for trust." Cole nodded, keeping his eyes on the horizon. "We're not done yet. We survive, then we plan. We fight if we must." The twin moons rose, casting silver light across the alien plains. Cole Harper, the struggling rancher, had become a protector, a fighter, and a guide. He had never imagined his life would take this path, but with Ryan beside him, he was ready to face whatever came next. The desert was alive, full of danger and mystery, and Cole knew deep in his heart that the adventure was far from over. The twin moons of Red Mesa hung low in the night sky, casting silver light across the rugged canyon. Cole Harper crouched behind a boulder, rifle in hand, eyes scanning the horizon. The alien plains stretched before him, glowing plants shimmering faintly in the darkness. Beside him, Ryan rested his hands on the ground, faint pulses of light tracing the lines beneath his skin. Both men were ready. The forces that had hunted Ryan across planets were closing in, and this time they would not be distracted by terrain or traps. Cole whispered, "They're close, stay sharp." Ryan's voice was quiet but firm. "Yes, now must fight, survive." From the shadows, the enemy appeared, sleek ships gliding low, drones flitting ahead like hunting birds. The main vessel hovered, massive and silent, its dark metal reflecting the moons. Cole's jaw tightened. The sheer scale of it was terrifying, yet he felt no fear. Survival, protecting Ryan, protecting his home, it all mattered more than fear. He checked his traps one last time. Rocks were tied with wires to create small pitfalls, and scattered debris could create distractions. He had learned to use the land as an ally as he had always done on his ranch, but now the stakes were far higher. Ryan rose slowly, energy pulses shimmering faintly along his arms. "We together, we strong," Cole nodded. "Together." The first wave of drones came. They moved with precision, scanning for heat and movement. Cole fired carefully, taking down drones that approached too closely. Ryan moved beside him, his energy pulses disabling several others with sparks and faint hums of interference. Cole marveled at the combination. His experience, Ryan's abilities, and the traps they had set created a formidable defense. The enemy responded with fire, small bolts of energy streaking through the canyon. Cole ducked behind a boulder, feeling heat brush past him. Ryan raised his hands, sending a pulse that deflected the energy harmlessly into the rocks. Sparks flew, dust swirled, and the canyon echoed with the sounds of battle. Cole shouted, "Move." This way, and led Ryan through a narrow pass, the canyon walls shielding them from the worst of the attacks. The enemy ships hovered above, scanning relentlessly. Cole's heart pounded. He knew they couldn't last forever in a head-to-head fight. He paused behind a large rock and took a deep breath. "Ryan, we have to hit the big one," he said, pointing to the massive ship. "If we take it down, the rest will retreat." Ryan nodded. "Yes, need combined strength." Cole had a plan. Using the floating rocks and narrow passes, he led the drones and smaller ships into the canyon where the cliffs above created a natural choke point. Ryan focused energy pulses on the ship's engines as they passed, causing them to falter and crash against the canyon walls. Sparks and metal fragments rained down, creating chaos among the enemy ranks. Cole moved quickly, setting a final trap. He triggered a series of rock slides, sending huge boulders tumbling toward the massive ship. The impact shook the ground, sending vibrations through the canyon. The enemy vessel lurched, struggling to maintain position, while smaller drones scattered, some crashing into the canyon walls. Ryan stepped forward, energy glowing brightly along his arms. He extended his hands toward the massive ship, releasing a pulse that disabled its shields temporarily. Cole fired his rifle at weak points revealed by the pulse, hitting exposed machinery. The ship shuddered violently, engines sparking, and finally began to retreat, damaged and disabled. Cole exhaled slowly, lowering his rifle. The canyon was quiet again, the enemy scattered and defeated for now. Ryan looked at him, exhausted but alive. "You strong, brave, like no one I know," he said. Cole smiled faintly. "I'm just a rancher, but I know how to survive, and I know how to protect someone who needs it." They moved carefully through the canyon, ensuring the enemy had truly gone. The alien plains were quiet, save for the faint shimmer of glowing plants and the distant call of unknown creatures. Cole and Ryan finally reached a hidden valley, a safe haven where settlers had begun to build a small community. The settlers welcomed them cautiously. They had heard rumors of the pursuit and were wary, but Cole's calm confidence and Ryan's quiet energy persuaded them that no harm would come. The two men rested, tending to wounds and repairing gear while discussing the next steps. Ryan spoke carefully. "Device must be used carefully, help many not destroy." Cole nodded, understanding the weight of responsibility. This device, capable of controlling weather and resources across the planet, was both a blessing and a danger. In the wrong hands, it could destroy lives. In the right hands, it could save them. Days passed as Cole and Ryan worked with the settlers. Cole shared his knowledge of the land, teaching them how to protect themselves and prepare for attacks. Ryan instructed them on the device, showing how it could be used to improve crops and water supply safely. The bond between the men grew stronger, a mixture of trust, respect, and shared purpose. Cole thought often about his ranch. The struggles he had faced, drought, isolation, fear of failure, seemed small compared to the challenges they had just overcome. Yet he felt stronger, more capable, and more connected to the world around him. He had discovered that courage wasn't just fighting for survival. It was standing up for what was right, even when the odds were against you. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the valley, Cole and Ryan stood atop a ridge overlooking the settlement. Fires glowed below, settlers moving about, safe for the first time in days. Ryan's faintly glowing lines pulsed softly, a sign of recovery and calm. "You've changed me," Ryan said quietly. "Your courage, your heart, I learn from you." Cole smiled, feeling a warmth he hadn't felt in years. "We've both changed, and this land, it will be stronger because of what we've done." The enemy, for now, had retreated, but Cole knew they might return. He also knew that he was ready. His skills, his knowledge of the land, and his new understanding of Ryan's abilities made him a formidable protector. In the quiet of the night, Cole reflected on the journey. He had begun as a struggling rancher, fighting for survival in a harsh desert. Now he was a hero of a different kind, guardian of a powerful stranger, defender of settlers, and a bridge between ordinary life and extraordinary responsibility. Ryan placed a hand on Cole's shoulder. "You, brave, I, grateful, must go eventually teach others help." Cole nodded. He understood. Ryan's journey would continue, but his presence had left a lasting impact. The stranger had changed Cole's life, just as Cole had given him hope and protection. The night was calm. The wind whispered across the plains, and the glow of distant plants shimmered softly. Cole Harper, the once struggling rancher, now stood tall and confident. His life had been transformed by courage, trust, and the arrival of a stranger whose secrets could change worlds. The twin moons set over Red Mesa, and the first light of dawn began to break. Cole looked toward the horizon, thinking of his ranch, the settlers, and the future. The desert, once lonely and harsh, now felt alive with possibility. Whatever challenges awaited them, Cole knew he and Ryan could face them together. The journey had changed him, forged new strength and understanding, and revealed the truth he had always known deep down. Life was bigger than one man, one ranch, one desert. It was about the connections you made, the courage you showed, and the lives you protected. Cole Harper took a deep breath, feeling the desert air fill his lungs. He glanced at Ryan, who gave a faint, appreciative nod. Together they would continue their journey, stronger than before, ready to face whatever the galaxy and Red Mesa had in store. For the first time in years, Cole felt truly alive. The struggle, the danger, the unknown, they had all led him here. And with Ryan at his side, he knew that life could be extraordinary, even in the harshest frontier. The suns rose over Red Mesa, painting the world in gold and red. Cole Harper, the once struggling rancher, had survived, had grown, and had become a hero in ways he never imagined. His life, forever changed by the arrival of a wounded stranger, would continue, full of hope, adventure, and the promise of a new dawn.